Hi everyone, so it's Friday the 11th of September and I've not done any vlogging this week. In fact, this is the first video that I've done since we've got back from holiday, and there are several reasons for this. Firstly, the day after we got back from holiday, my wife started a new job, and so that's been a weird change in dynamic to have, the last 5 months or 6 months spending every day together, and then suddenly, she's gone to work, and I'm here on my own, which has taken a little bit of getting used to. Also, as you can probably hear, I'm not very well, and so I'm going to apologise for the constant sniffing through this through this vlog. Also, I don't feel as though anything of particular, interest has really happened this week. Although you may say that that's been the case with the other three vlogs, and you might be right. So it's really, I'm trying something different today, which is just to sit here and talk for a little bit, and that will be the vlog. And again, today, and I think especially with my wife going back to work, it's been a reminder that nothing has changed for the music industry, and in fact now it looks as though again restrictions are being tightened, and music will take a huge hit. The music industry revenue or generates over £100 billion a year. It's much bigger than, say, for example, pubs. Just, I have nothing against pubs. I have some friends that run a lovely pub in Wick, and I have nothing against this, but I it's starting to get a little bit frustrating that music seems to be consistently taking this this hit in the coronavirus world. And we can be pretty sure that coronavirus is going to stick around until there's some kind of flu-like jab vaccine, and that's probably going to be at least another 6 months away. And so you then start to have to face the reality that it's been 6 months, nothing's changed. It's probably going to be another 6 months of nothing changing. And how long reasonably can we be expected to, take this kind of hit? Now look, don't get me wrong, we've had someone in our family that died from COVID, and I'm not a COVID denier at all. I think it's absolutely serious, and I continue to run my business in a way that is COVID friendly. So I continue to do all of my piano teaching online, and that will not change until there is some kind of advice from the government that says I can do otherwise. Similarly, I continue to run online choir rehearsals along with the 2 rehearsal pianists for Lantrism, and in fact with Lantrism we are having an outside rehearsal this coming Sunday, and I probably will vlog some of that. But again, inside will not change until the advice changes. But here's the frustrating thing. Okay, here is the frustrating thing. Okay, and I'm not a scientist, so I'm just asking and thinking what I think most people, normal people, would ask and think. Okay, why is it, that we can still pack people onto a plane, 200 people onto a plane, and send them off to a different country. All right, yes, they're all wearing masks, but they're not 2 meters apart, and that's recirculated air, right? It's not fresh air, it's recirculated air, okay? And why is it that we can send children back to school, and people on the London Underground, and people onto buses, and people into restaurants, and people into pubs, But I cannot go into someone's house and teach piano one-on-one, where I can easily stay 2 meters apart with masks, with visors, and they could have a mask, and I don't need to touch the piano, and we can have a window open. Why? Why? Right? I don't understand. And, why? Why? The music industry, I feel, is being treated so unfairly. And there is now scientific evidence that shows that singing isn't any more dangerous than talking or anything else. Okay, what is necessary is that if you were to all sing inside, you have to be 2 meters apart, and you'd have to have all this ventilation, to make sure there was good air circulation, and it would need to be risk assessed. But it's got to be safer than 200 people sat on a plane right next to each other, surely. So I just don't understand, and it's just getting frustrating. I do not want to put anyone's life in jeopardy. Not my family's, not someone else's family, certainly. But I think it's relatively safe for me to go and teach piano in a room 2 meters apart from someone else, with a mask, sanitizing, all this kind of stuff. I just don't understand it. I really don't. And as for choirs, outside rehearsals, it's great that we can go outside. But I've noticed now in England that they've limited the numbers of group meetings down to 6. And it's very likely that Wales will follow suit, in which case the time that we have to do outside rehearsals is limited. And I mean, it's limited anyway because of the weather. And obviously, as you get into October, November, December, you just can't ask 60, 70, 80-year-olds to sit outside in the freezing cold for an hour and a half while you're asking them to sing a verse of Come Ronda, right? It's not fair. So I really worry, especially about the choirs. And the reality is I actually don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to survive this situation as a self-employed musician. I'm very, very lucky that I run an online choir, the Lockdown Singers, and people are incredibly generous with their donations. They really are. And that helps, as does money that I still get from teaching, and some money that comes in from the choirs. They're still managing to pay me something, even though we're not rehearsing in person. The online rehearsals are something that they're happy with, and it's the same with Music in Mind. They're able to pay me something, and for that I do some videos online and write some music, the anthem obviously, which is now completed, by the way, and I'm excited to share that with you as soon as I can. But the reality is, the longer this goes on, the less likely choirs are to survive, which is the main concern. Lantris and male voice choir is over 100 years old. It's over 100 years old. And, it cannot be allowed just to fizzle into non-existent. It's not right. It's not right. But also, I am concerned for myself, and for my family, especially having a nearly 2-year-old son. I feel as though I'm definitely at the point where I need to consider other options. But the difficulty is what? I'm 37, going to be 38 next year. And the reality is, if I go and do something else, I'm looking at going in at the bottom. And it's going to take years to get up to a salary that I earn now. Although my salary at the moment now is down about £15,000 a year. compared to this time, year on year. So it's pretty grim. I'm actually getting to a point where I maybe could go and get a job that would pay something close to what I earn at the moment. Anyway, I just it's random musings for me, but I just don't know why music is taking such. Well, I do know why music is taking such a hit. Initially, when all this started, there were a couple of very well publicized stories about choirs that had rehearsals, and then where 70 or 80% of the membership just died from coronavirus. But the thing is, the evidence now shows that there's no more risk from singing than certainly than that I can see than from sitting on a 200 people sat on a plane right next to each other. We'll see what happens. It's just hard when you see other parts of society going back to something close to normal. My wife goes to work every day, and why is that safe? But me going to teach piano is not. It's very, very, and I don't resent my wife at all. It's just there's so much disparity, and there doesn't seem to be any logic to it. There we are. Anyway, that's that. I had a random musing the other day as well. Two things, that I was thinking of. How late do you have to be late? Which is an interesting thing that came up on the lockdown thing, is because we have a register keeper, although actually it's not the case. Okay, well, we don't keep a register. There's no official list of members. It's because we have new people coming in all the time. But we have this little joke about, if you're late, you have to sit in the naughty corner for a couple of minutes. But how late do you have to be late? So we start the session at 10 o'clock. So if you come in at 1 minute past 10, are you late? Because it seems fair to say that most people would not consider 1 minute past 10 really to be late, right? If I turned up to a rehearsal 1 minute past when it was starting, I wouldn't necessarily think I was late. So it was just an interesting question. 10 minutes. Now, is that late? And then, of course, late can, there might be situations where you consider something to be late, not actually late, because it's benefited you. So, say for example, if you're catching a train and you're, running late, but the train happens to be 10 minutes behind where it should be, that's not necessarily something that you're going to complain about in that instance. Although obviously if you were on time and the train was then 10 minutes past where it should be, then you might not be so impressed, and then you might consider that late. It's just an interesting thing. How late is late? In fact, is it a case of really you're only late at a point where you really just cannot do anything of any use? So, for example, if I conduct a couple of choirs, as you know, and let's say Tabernacle, for example, Bridge and Tabernacle on a Tuesday. We run from 7 until 8:45. Now, if someone came in at 8 o'clock, that would be fine. I mean, yes, they would be late, but there's still 45 minutes that they can do something of use. And so therefore, I'd be highly unlikely to say to that person, why are you late? I'd just be glad that they turned up and they managed to get there and they could contribute something. 8:30 though, no good. By that time you've only got 15 minutes. You may as well not have turned up in the nicest possible way. There's an interesting thing that I was thinking of. How late is late? I wonder if we could actually put, a figure on it. And I bet you somewhere some study has been done on this, like a survey of 100 people, or maybe some test was carried out. with people, and someone turned up at varying different times after an agreed point, and then they had to be asked, or I don't know when they considered it to be past an acceptable time. The other thing that I was thinking of is classical music. Now, I have a classical upbringing. Both of my parents classical musicians. My mum's an exceptional pianist. My dad is a very good organist and pianist himself, and singer. And I learnt piano from a classically trained piano teacher. Although, to be fair to him, he didn't just keep me on classical music. And classical music frustrates me because there's even now still a tendency for people in the classical world to turn their noses up at other music. Oh well, it's not Mozart, is it? Oh, gosh, goodness me, and that's really, really frustrating because it's pretentious for a start, but it also means that classical music does not feel accessible, especially to the younger generation. Oh, well, look at you, Ed Sheeran. I'm sat here listening to Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony, don't you know? I mean, it's all just a pile of rubbish. And look, that's not to say that everyone who likes classical music is like this, but goodness me, it is something that you do come across. And I think the irony for me is that actually, a lot of these people who turn their noses up at other music could be people that are raving, about Iron Audi. I mean, for goodness sake, everything, yes, music, all music has its place, okay? And I do understand that, okay? But Iron Audi, Carl Jenkins, okay, Catherine Jenkins, there's plenty of stuff in classical music that these people rave about, and yet there are things that you could quite easily turn your nose up at, and there just is an irony there, and this thought process all came about because of my friend Dr. David Allenson, who I spent a bit of time at university with. He was lecturing, and we've become great friends. And he said to me, one of the things that I really admire about you, Matthew, is that you are so open-minded when it comes to music. And yes, my brother, my elder brother, James, I remember when we were younger, he listened to Iron Maiden and Metallica, and all this kind of stuff. And so from a young age for me, it was you either grow up detesting this or you grow up learning to appreciate it. And for me, it was definitely a case of, you learn to appreciate it. And from that point on, my piano teacher would give me Fats Waller and jazz music to play, in the car, I would hear my parents listening to, it wasn't revolutionary then, but the Beatles, the King Singers, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, and so my musical awareness became, relatively speaking, quite wide from a young age, and that's just carried on even more so now. Having since I met my wife, we've been to see so many different people. Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber was great, by the way, very good. Britney Spears, Rihanna, Katy Perry, Justin Timberlake, Ed Sheeran, James Arthur, Tiny Temper. We've been to see all these people. I mean, really, really top-notch, top-class people, who really know what they're doing in their genre. And I kind of wish that even if these snooty people, sorry, but I can't think of any other word, these snooty people in the world of classical music, even if they don't like the music, if they could at least have an appreciation for it, I think this would make a huge difference to giving the impression that classical music is an open and understanding place. And of course, the irony is that classical music isn't just Mozart. There's so much in this genre for younger people to get engaged with. Film music in particular, which we can put under the branch of classical music. And John Williams is a great one because, of course, John Williams uses a lot of imitation. Star Wars. Look at a lot of pieces of Debussy, and then write something that has that same sound world and that same that same feeling. And there's so many avenues in classical music that we can use to engage younger people. Anyway, look, there's a much longer conversation to have here, and I think actually what I may do in the next vlog is involve my friend Dr. David, who's much more knowledgeable in this area than I am. But look, if you are someone who is passionate about classical music and likes classical music, I am one of those people. I love Shostakovich, I love Kapustin, York Bowen, brilliant. I'm a sucker for a Tchaikovsky symphony and a Chopin prelude. If you are one of those people and you hear other music that maybe some young people are listening to, and you think, maybe take a moment, have a proper listen, and try to gain some understanding for those different genres of music, and I think you find there's a lot of gems out there. That's about it for now anyway. Thanks for tuning in for this vlog. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to share with your friends. But for now, it's goodbye from me, and I will be doing some vlogging, no doubt, over the weekend, and I'll post that as and when it happens. And all the best for now. Bye-bye.